Hey everyone, this is Tim Dial, mortgage coach and certified mortgage advisor with Nexa Mortgage. Just wanted to put this quick video together to go over some information about a great new program that people are utilizing to help them get into homes for less overall cost. And it's an FHA solar program, and I'm going to get into it here. It's called HOPER. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but it is called HOPER, which stands for Hope for Home Ownership. And sorry about that. But anyway, that is the program. It is called HOPER. It is a program that runs in conjunction with FHA, so it only works with FHA loans. And the reason being is because FHA will allow a home, the financing on a home, to be up to 20% higher than the appraised value or purchase price if that extra 20% is being used to install solar on the home. And then what this program does is it provides you with 3.5% for the down payment. And then the cost of the solar gets added into the mortgage, and it's actually owned by you free and clear. So you've got when you move into the house, the solar panels are free and clear to you. They're included in your mortgage. And so it's pretty incredible. And the nice thing about it is that this down payment assistance that they're providing is forgiven from day one. So it's free money for the most part, other than, you have to get the solar installed, which gets added to the mortgage. But, they'll give you 3.5% up to $13,000 and for the down payment. And the other nice thing about it is the interest rate is a normal interest rate on your mortgage, which is unusual with down payment assistance. A lot of these down payment assistance programs will charge you like an extra 1 to 1.5% in interest rate. And then a lot of them will even put a second mortgage on your house at an even higher interest rate. We utilize those types of programs a lot. So even though this program, the overall loan amount ends up being higher, a lot of times the payment is as lower than if we're using one of these other down payment assistance programs, because you're using a normal interest rate. You could get, like right now, you get a 6 or 6.25% interest rate instead of like a 7.75% interest rate with some of these other down payment assistance programs. So that's just an example, and that's based on today's market. Obviously, that market's going to change over time. Rates will come down some over time, and that will be for both of those types of programs. But anyway, I'm going to share a screen here real quick and go through some stuff pretty rapidly. So you should be able to see my screen. This is a PDF that the HOPER program sent me. It's kind of like a slideshow, but they put it into a PDF format instead of like a slideshow format. HOPER for Home Ownership, Hope for Home Ownership program. And this just gives you like some information on how much money you're going to save. I'm not going to go through a lot of these slides in very much detail. There are a few that I want to get to that will make the most sense, I think, as we go through this. So this is for FHA buyers only. So it's the only program it works with is FHA, because they're the ones that, like I said, will allow that extra 20% over the purchase price to install solar. So it doesn't work with VA, doesn't work with USDA, doesn't work with conventional loans. It is strictly for FHA buyers. And they also do like education stuff as well that we're going to get into in a minute, and they do have some requirements on that. So, and it says avoid buyer risk of standard DPAs. And buyer risk for standard DPAs is having a second mortgage at a higher interest rate. Like second mortgage right now for DPA programs is like 9.75% interest rate on that second mortgage. And that's like, for a $200,000 house, that's like $120 a month payment that you don't have on top of it. And then additionally, the interest rate on the first mortgage is also higher with standard DPA programs. So it gets you out of having to utilize those programs, which is nice. So they want to close more loans, solidify and secure partnerships, and increase referrals. So here's the key to it, like what they require. There's a 6-hour pre-close financial training course that they make their people go through. So in order to get this program, you have to go through this course. You pay $149 up front for that training. and that's non-refundable. So that is something that you have to do. It has nothing to do with us. We don't collect it ourselves. It goes directly to them. And then post-close, after you close, you are committing to also doing an 8-hour post-close financial training course for $99. And these things, I believe they have these things available as virtual. So I don't think you have to actually go anywhere, but they are available for virtual. And then they also will require you to respond to some future surveys about things, as far as how the solar is working and stuff like that, and how much it's saving you and those sorts of things. And then there's also soft credit monitoring. They actually help you with your credit so that your credit score remains good over time and goes up over time, hopefully. The idea here with this program is trying to get less and less people that go into default. Because what happens with a lot of first-time buyers that use down payment assistance, unfortunately, they will use up like all the funds they have for the purchase and then have no funds remaining. And then within the first year, many of those customers end up defaulting because they were so financially strained by the process, and they're trying to get people out of that. So the buyer gets 3.5% of the purchase price, up to $13,000 as earned income, and can be used against any element of the close. So that's how that works. And you also get a fully owned solar system. So whenever they put a $35,000 solar system on your house, it is actually fully owned by you. You are financing it, but it's owned from day one because it's in your mortgage. So it was paid for in the mortgage from day one. So you're the owner of that solar system. The other nice thing about solar is that it kind of removes a lot of the power outage issues with you. I had my parents live in Columbus, Indiana, and they had a power outage a couple months ago, and I think the heat was like, they were having temperatures around 90 degrees or something like that. And they had a power outage that lasted for like 3 days. And so if you have solar panels, if the solar is operating at utmost efficiency, you're not going to have to worry so much about that, because they generally will install batteries in your home. The solar charges those batteries, and then the batteries operate the home, and then and that allows it to continue to work during the night as you sleep, because it's running off the battery since there's no sunshine, right? Same is true whenever you have a power outage. You're going to run off those batteries, and then they're going to recharge during the day. And then if the solar wasn't covering the entire amount, you could just basically scale back some of what you're utilizing during the day. Maybe use lights a little bit less, turn the air conditioning down a little bit. So instead of having it set at 72, you set it at like 76, but you still have air, and that way you're using less power, and make sure you don't run the batteries out while you're waiting for the power to get turned back on at the main grid, right? And so those are some of the real benefits of having the solar and being able to get into this program. Pretty incredible. So FHA versus Hoper, this is something they put together here. Your mortgage payment, they're saying your mortgage payment would be a little bit higher, $2,200 versus $2,000 on this particular example, and that's because you are financing a higher amount to finance the solar into the mortgage. However, I ran my own numbers, and if you were using traditional DPA, it's actually a lot less than that. You're talking maybe $30 to $50 more on your payment. And if you have a second mortgage, it's actually less on your payment than having a first and second mortgage type DPA program. So that makes it even more worthwhile. And then the other thing is you have savings on your electric bill. You're going to save at least a couple $100 a month in electric. And that's, you think about that over a year. Every year you're saving like $2,400 or more on your electric every single year. And then they're also giving you that up to 13,000 for this. So the way that works is if you're looking at 3.5% or 13,000, basically if the purchase price is under like 370, then you're going to get the 3.5%, whatever that works out to. If the purchase price is over like 370, then you're going to get 13,000. That's kind of where that cutoff is. So that's the way to look at that. Let's see, where was I? Okay. And then this is for all FHA borrowers. So that's the way that works. Now, the one thing that they do require, I believe, is they require what's called an automated underwriting approval. So we do need credit scores that are at least good enough to get us that automated approval. They won't allow a manual underwrite. So that might change at some point, but for now, that's what they require. And so we're going to want credit scores generally that are at least like 640 to 660 to be able to get you into this program. And qualify homes, introduce Hoper enrollment closing. I'm not going to get into all that detail. Let's see if there's anything else that I need to cover here. That's pretty much it. That's the slide deck. Pretty short and sweet. I didn't want to get too far down into the weeds, but that's the main gist of it. If we were doing this program, you're looking at usually most of these areas, the solar is going to be somewhere around 30 to 35,000 that they're tacking onto the loan. And if it was in a more expensive area like California, it might be more like 40 or 45,000 because everything costs more out there. But I'm not licensed in California, so we're not really doing that at this point. But that's kind of what I wanted to get into and cover right now. I am going to be doing, like I do virtual homebuyer seminars usually once a month. I've got one coming up Wednesday, August 20th. And I do these like once a month. I am going to start including information on the Hoper program on my virtual seminars. It'll be the first time that I have done so because I just kind of been finding out about this over the last month or so and trying to get more detail on it and how it works. And I feel comfortable enough now that I think it's going to work for a lot of people and be a better solution for a lot of people as compared to traditional down payment assistance. So that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to cover at this point. If you do have any questions, certainly let me know. I'm always here to help and to get any questions answered.